The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee and old wood polish, the way it always had in my childhood home in Charlotte, North Carolina. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner had been a constant for as long as I could remember. It was the only sound filling the silence after my father dropped a sentence that cracked through me like lightning. "Your sister Olivia is uncomfortable with all the attention you're getting," he said. His words hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. I blinked, not sure if I'd heard him right. "What are you saying, Dad?" Donald Hamilton, my father, sat hunched in his chair, his hands gripping his mug of coffee like it might save him from drowning. His eyes didn't meet mine. "I've been thinking about the wedding," he said slowly, as if he needed to convince himself. "And I don't think I should walk you down the aisle." For a moment, my brain refused to register what he had just said. My wedding was in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And the man who was supposed to walk me toward the life I was about to begin was backing out. Not because of illness or scheduling, but because my younger sister couldn't handle not being the center of attention. The anger hit me like a wave, but beneath it was something colder. Recognition. I'd been here before, in different shapes and forms, all my life. Olivia's feelings always came first. "Thanks for showing me who really matters to you," I said quietly. My voice didn't waver, though my hands trembled at my sides. He flinched, finally glancing up at me, his brow furrowed. "Charlotte, you're being dramatic. Olivia's been upset. As her father, I need to support her." "And as my father?" I asked. The silence that followed was more painful than any words he could have spoken. In that moment, something inside me broke. Not just my heart, my expectations. Any shred of hope that he would ever choose me. The truth was, I should have seen it coming. Favoritism had been stitched into the fabric of our family ever since Olivia was born. I was 8 when our mother died, and our lives split into before and after. Donald threw himself into work at the textile factory, disappearing into long shifts and longer silences. I was left to navigate grief alone, until my mother's father, Grandpa Theodore, moved in. Theodore was 60 then, already gray-haired and a little slower than other men his age, but he stepped into the role of parent like he had been waiting his whole life for the chance. He braided my hair before school. He came to every parent-teacher conference. When thunderstorms rattled the windows, he sat at my bedside, telling me stories about history's bravest people until I fell asleep. He knew I hated mushrooms, but loved strawberry ice cream. He knew my dream was to visit Italy one day. He knew me. Donald, meanwhile, gave Olivia everything. New clothes while I wore hand-me-downs, her choice of vacation spots while mine were dismissed. Her tears brought comfort. My tears brought silence, and I told myself, for years, that maybe it didn't matter, that maybe he was just doing the best he could. But sitting in that kitchen at 28, listening to him throw away one of the most important moments of my life for Olivia's comfort, I realized it had always been a choice. And he had never chosen me. I turned and walked down the hallway, my phone clutched tight in my hand. I could hear Dad calling after me, maybe expecting me to beg him to reconsider. But I was done begging. At the end of the hall was the room where my real father figure sat. I knocked softly. "Come in, sweetheart," came the warm voice I'd relied on for 2 decades. Grandpa Theodore looked up from his armchair, a thick biography of Winston Churchill resting on his lap. His face lit up when he saw me, the way it always did, like I was the best part of his day. I sat down on the ottoman beside him, my throat tight. "Grandpa, I need to ask you something important." "Of course." "What's on your mind?" I swallowed hard. Would you walk me down the aisle at my wedding?" His eyebrows shot up, and for a moment he just stared at me. "What about your father? I thought Donald was—" "He was," I cut in. My voice cracked, but I forced myself to continue. "But he decided Olivia's comfort matters more. He said I was getting too much attention, and it was making her uncomfortable. A shadow crossed Theodore's face, something I rarely saw, anger. His lips tightened. "That boy," he muttered, and I knew he didn't mean me. I reached for his hands, rough with age but steady as stone. "Grandpa, you've been more of a father to me than he ever was. You taught me to drive. You celebrated every promotion. You showed up always. Will you do me the honor?" Tears filled his eyes as he squeezed my hands. "Charlotte, my dear girl, it would be the greatest honor of my life." Relief and joy surged through me, so sharp it almost hurt. For the first time that day, I smiled, and in that moment, I knew exactly how my revenge would unfold. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Donald tried everything to reclaim his role. "Charlotte, you're being ridiculous," he snapped over the phone one night. "I'm your father. It's my right to walk you down the aisle." "Rights are earned," I said evenly. "Grandpa earned it every day for 20 years. Another time, his voice softened, almost pleading. "I don't want people to get the wrong idea about our family." "They'll get the truth," I replied. Olivia, of course, called too. "You're destroying this family," she spat. "Dad is heartbroken and it's all your fault." "No," I said calmly. "Dad made his choice when he put your jealousy above my wedding." "You're selfish and vindictive," she screamed. "I'm being authentic," I said. For once. Meanwhile, Theodore prepared with the kind of care that broke and mended my heart all at once. He bought a new Navy suit. He practiced his walk so he wouldn't need his cane. He asked to see the church in advance so he'd know every step. "I want everything to be perfect for you, my dear," he said, his eyes shining. "It already is," I told him. "Because it's you." October sunlight streamed through stained glass windows at St. Michael's Church. The air was crisp, the kind of Carolina autumn day that feels borrowed from heaven. In the bridal room, my maid of honor, Jessica, adjusted my veil. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked gently. I looked at my reflection, ivory dress, trembling hands, determined eyes. I've never been more ready. At 2 p.m., the music swelled. Bridesmaids glided down the aisle, then little Sophia, my flower girl, tossing petals like confetti. And then it was our turn. Theodore appeared at my side, standing tall in his new suit, holding the family walking stick that had belonged to his own father. His arm was steady as he offered it to me. "Ready, my dear?" he asked. "Ready, Grandpa," I whispered. The church doors opened, and we stepped forward. Gasps rippled through the congregation, followed by whispers of recognition and approval. At the altar, James's eyes filled with tears. In the pews, I saw Donald sitting rigid, pale, Olivia beside him, her face flushed with anger, and then Reverend Matthew's voice rang out. "Charlotte is being walked down the aisle by Theodore Hamilton, her beloved grandfather, and the father, figure who raised her with unconditional love." The words landed like a thunderclap. Theodore's arm tightened around mine, and he held his head high. Donald's face crumbled. Olivia stared at the floor, and I felt lighter than I ever had in my life. The ceremony was beautiful, but the reception was where the revenge bloomed in full. At the Charlotte Country Club, Theodore sat in the seat of honor at the head table, where the father of the bride traditionally belonged. Donald sat 3 tables back, a regular guest. During cocktail hour, people lined up to shake Theodore's hand, to congratulate him, to share stories about the role he'd played in my life. My Aunt Patricia said it best. "It's about time. Someone put Donald in his place. Theodore raised you, not him." Donald, meanwhile, fielded awkward questions. "Where were you sitting during the ceremony?" guests asked, puzzled. His evasive answers only deepened their confusion. When it came time for the father of the bride's speech, I stood up, microphone in hand. My voice shook only with emotion, not nerves. "I want to thank someone very special," I began. I turned to Theodore. "Grandpa, you have been my rock, my guide, and my biggest supporter. You taught me what unconditional love looks like. Thank you for being the father I needed when I needed one most." The applause was thunderous. Theodore stood, bowed slightly, his eyes wet with tears. Then came the dance. The DJ announced, "Charlotte is dancing with her grandfather Theodore, who raised her and walked her down the aisle today." As we moved slowly across the floor, I heard the whispers all around us. Admiration, approval, acknowledgement. And, behind me, Donald sat stiff and silent, his face gray. Every tradition that had once belonged to him now belonged to Theodore. And everyone in the room knew exactly why. Later that night, Donald approached me quietly, his shoulders sagging. "Charlotte," he said, his voice hoarse. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I should have walked you down that aisle. I let Olivia's jealousy get in the way." I looked at him for a long time. For the first time, there was no anger in me, just clarity. "Yes," I said simply. "You did." In the months that followed, the consequences were permanent. Olivia and I became estranged. Donald's reputation in the family sank. At gatherings, Theodore was honored as the patriarch, while Donald sat in silence, excluded from conversations, from plans, from futures. And Theodore, my real father in every way that mattered, became the center of my new family. He was there, for birthdays, holidays, milestones, even the birth of my first child. Years later, when I looked back at my wedding photos, my favorite wasn't of James and me kissing, or of the bouquet toss. It was the shot of Theodore and me walking arm in arm, his face radiant with pride. That was my revenge. Sweet, public, and undeniable. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't about punishment. It's about shining a spotlight on the love that was always there, and letting the world see who truly earned the title of father.